Right guys, we're back again this week. All right, we are joined with Johan Muller again. This week we're covering the Consumer Protection Act. Johan, does this apply to movable property?
Yes, it does in certain instances, but it is of the utmost importance that one has to distinguish when it applies to your relevant transaction and when not. Now, to give you a very simple test, is your seller and your specific buyer, let's call them the specific consumer and the supplier, they have to comply by definition to those specific supplier and consumer definitions. Now, a supplier is a person who provides goods or services in the ordinary course of his business at consideration. And equally, a consumer is a person who receives these goods or services in the ordinary course of business of the supplier and pays consideration for it. Now, if you can compare this to a once-off property sale, and I am, for example, a teacher or a lawyer, this is not my ordinary course of business selling my only residential dwelling. Therefore, I do not comply with the definition of being a supplier or a consumer. And in that regard, the CPA will simply not apply. Many people are so willing to apply the CPA for the pure and simple reason that it provides for an array of remedies to the consumer, and he would obviously like to make use of it. But applying the test to determine whether the CPA fits and is applicable in your transaction is imperative.
Johan, many purchasers of properties or immovable properties feel that they can cancel a transaction with 20 days business notice. Is that the case? Are they able to do this?
No, not always. Like I said in a previous question, obviously the consumers would love for the CPA to apply in most, if not all, the instances because it provides ample protection for them in certain instances. But what they base their specific notice on is Section 14 of the CPA or the Consumer Protection Act that basically says that if there is a fixed term contract, in other words, a contract for a fixed period of time, for example, a rental, in that specific instance, should the CPA apply, the consumer can cancel the relevant fixed term agreement by giving 20 business days written notice without any rhyme or reason. But that is obviously on the premonition that your specific CPA has to apply to the relevant transaction. And so many people try to apply the 20 business days notice and the right to cancel, even in those instances where the CPA does not apply to the relevant transaction. So again, it's of the utmost importance to take that step back and to determine definition-wise as to whether the CPA truly applies to your transaction before you rely on a 20 business days cancellation notice.
Johan, last question. In terms of the Consumer Protection Act, does it apply as much to rental contracts as it does to immovable property?
Sean, yes. Equally, you have to apply the test because I think the school of thought is pretty clear that in the event where there's a once-off sale of an immovable property, the CPA does not apply for the pure and simple reason that there has to be some sorts of a frequency in the specific activity or a repetition. That is basically the definition of ordinary course of business. And I think that school of thought can equally apply in the event of rentals as well. Many people, I think, fault in the sense that they try and apply the CPA to all rentals, which is simply not the case. Again, when I am a lessor, it needs to be, per definition, a supplier. So I have to provide those rental goods in the ordinary course of my business at consideration. So that frequency needs to be applicable in this instance as well. If, for example, it's a developer who's got a portfolio of rental properties and it is his ordinary course of business to rent out these properties for residential purposes, then the CPA would surely apply. But in the instances of a once-off, or I've got one investment property that I rent out, highly unlikely that the CPA would apply. So again, you've got to take that step back and apply the test as per the definition.
All right, guys, there you have it. Thank you very much, Johan, for your time and for being with us today. Really appreciate it, and I'm sure the guys are going to find this very informative.
My pleasure.